morning, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for today, Monday, April 8th, 2019.
Commissioner Garcia, Cabello, James, and Colozo are present. President James, we do have a quorum. May we start with Bureau introductions, please, starting with Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning. John Olinger, Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning. Jose Fuentes, Bureau of Engineering.
Good morning. Hee-Sang Kim, Bureau of Sanitation.
Good morning. Asad Al-Najjar, Bureau of Street Lighting.
Good morning. Sunil Rajpal, Bureau of Street Services. Good morning. Ted Jordan, Public Works General Counsel.
Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. President James, we do not have any speaker cards under general public comment. We have no commentary under the Neighborhood Council comment section. We did receive a speaker card on item number 1 for today's agenda.
Okay, thank you. On agenda, we'll close general public comment as well as the Neighborhood Council category of commentary. Agenda item number 3, specifications submitted for board adoption and authorization to advertise for the invitation of bids. This is in Council District 5 for the Westwood Neighborhood Greenway Project. Estimate $2,909,795. The bid receipt date is May 15th, 2019. Is there a second to my motion that we approve agenda item number 3 forthwith by Commissioner Cabello? Any objection? Without objection, we will do so. Agenda item number 2 is a subcontractor substitution, OHL USA Incorporated, recommending that the board concur with the action of Commissioner Davis approving the request of OHL USA Incorporated for the subcontractor substitution Integrity Rebar Placers with Stand True Resources Incorporated, doing business as Stand True Reinforcing Steel, to perform reinforcing steel work on the Argo Drain Sub-Basin Facility Project. Mr. Espindola, how are you, sir?
Very good, thank you. Good morning, George Espindola with the Bureau of Contract Administration. The Bureau received a request on February 20th, 2019 from OHL USA Incorporated to substitute their approved subcontractor, Integrity Rebar Placer, a MBE contractor, with Stand True Resources Incorporated, DBA Stand True Reinforcement Steel, a MBE WBE contractor. The request was accompanied by a letter from Integrity Rebar Placers withdrawing from their portion of the work. Integrity Rebar Placers was unable to honor prices quoted originally to OHL USA. The Bureau of Contract Administration, Office of Contract Compliance, verified that OHL USA Incorporated administered a good faith effort to find another qualified contractor. The approved amount for Integrity Rebar Placer is $887,887. The amount submitted for approval by OHL USA for Stand True Reinforcement Steel is $1,166,300, a difference of $278,413. OHL USA Incorporated will decrease its prime participation by $278,413, so that the work performed by Stand True Reinforcement Steel is at no cost to the city. The Bureau concurs with the recommendation of Commissioner Davis to approve the substitution.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Jordan, since this is not an insignificant difference, I just want to put on the record your statement as to whether or not this decrease in prime participation is allowed as part of this substitution.
Yes, it is. It's not uncommon when the substitution occurs that there be an adjustment in the prime participation. The result is there's no additional cost to the city. The substitution seems appropriate given that the record indicates that the subcontractor was withdrawing from the work. So I concur in the recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? That's Commissioner Davis's motion. I'll second it. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 2. Thank you, sir. Any issue sending number 2 forthwith? We'll send number 2 forthwith. Is there a second to my motion that we approve the meeting minutes from the meeting of Friday, March 1, 2019 by Commissioner Cabello? Any objection? Without objection, those meeting minutes will be approved. Agenda item number 1, Street Services, Council District 12. This is Street Services, Street Lighting, and Contract Administration. Requested contract award, tree trimming for street lighting illumination in the parkways of Rinaldi Street. Recommending that the board first find that Thrifty Tree Service is the lowest responsible bidder, and award Thrifty the contract for the trimming of 2,500 trees in the parkways of Rinaldi Street from Corbin Avenue to Reseda Boulevard and certain other streets in the amount of $422,300 $375. Secondly, authorize myself or two members of the board to execute the contract for the project after approval as to form by the city attorney has been obtained. Third, instruct the executive officer of the board to immediately advise Thrifty to submit their bonds and insurance documents within 5 working days after the date of notification of award of the contract by the board. And fourth, instruct the executive officer of the board to immediately advise Thrifty that work on the project must start within 5 working days from the date of the issuance of the notice to proceed. Before we start with Mr. Tyson, we have Jimmy Francis from 721 this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Jimmy Francis. I'm a tree surgeon assistant with Urban Forestry. I want to comment on the contract that you're proposing. We are hired to do a job, which is trim trees. And I've been here 14 years, and I observe tree trimming every which way. I've been on a emergency crew. I've been on what they call a program crew, which they call the mechanized crew. And I observe a lot of the tree surgeons, how they do the work. We do quality work. This is what we got hired for. And everybody takes pride in the work that we do. I've seen contractors do work, and we have to go over what they do. I've been, being on an emergency crew, there was a particular street in Lamar Park where contractors had trimmed the trees. We had to go maybe 4 or 5 times on this particular street because the limbs had failed because the trees were not trimmed correctly. And they fell on houses, also on cars. And this is an example of some of the contract because they're getting paid per tree, where urban forestry employees are getting paid per hour. So it would benefit us to do the job compared to the contractors because we take pride. We do it very well. We are trained very well because we do annual training every year. As far as tree trimming, we have excellent supervisors that supervise urban forestry employees. We have more than enough employees. We're hiring tree surgeons. We're hiring everybody, the truck drivers from everybody. So we have more than enough employees. Matter of fact, we was one particular crew that already started on Rinaldi.
2 minutes.
Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. That started from Rinaldi from 405 Freeway, already started trimming on Rinaldi. The problem what we have now is equipment. We have more people than we have equipment. You give us the equipment, we can actually do the job better than the contract with less money. Because contractors will come in and you always have a low bid, but eventually over time they will come back to you saying, we need more money because of the overhead. With us, you pay us hourly, and we can do the job better than the contractors. Just like I said, we are specialized in tree trimming. That's all we do. Contractors do a hurry-up job because they get paid per hour. Per tree, I'm sorry. So that makes the difference because we take pride. Urban forestry was created for that, for the city to trim trees at a lower cost. This is what we get paid for. And I've talked with every tree surgeon there so far, and I've seen them. Basically, I go up in the tree sometimes, but basically I'm on the ground working. So, but we take pride in the work. Urban forestry take very good pride of what they do and quality work also. So I want to thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. Mr. Tyson, before we start on agenda item, or before you start on agenda item number 1, obviously some issues were put on the table by Mr. Francis. You can address those. Let me just say that by way of background, when this administration started, when I started in this role, there were no crews that were doing, there were no city crews that were doing tree trimming work. We were contracting it all out. Over time, with significant progress in just the last 2 budget years, we have increased our forces, our city forces and city crews, so that we can return tree trimming work to the experts that were doing tree trimming work previously at the Bureau of Street Services that have been moved to other locations. So we've seen the return and the resurgence of city tree trimming. Just this weekend, there were city crews that I passed a number of times on Laurel Canyon Boulevard. That was it was great. It was up on social media a lot because people were very happy to see it. Those were city crews that were working on the weekend. Within a year of being in this role, when we saw our contract, you will remember when we saw our contract rates that were exorbitant. They were sometimes 100%, 150% higher than the city's estimate. It's because the market and the contractors knew that we didn't have anybody to compete with, meaning our own crews. So during the first budget year, we made the request of the city council and the mayor's office to give us 1 crew so that we can demonstrate 2 things. One, by having 1 crew, we knew that the contracting rates would come down because the contractors wouldn't know which of the contracts we could just deny all bids or vote against. So the city was again competing in the marketplace. Secondly, with the contractors, to Mr. Francis's point, we were consistently getting complaints from constituents and council members regarding the quality of the tree trimming work. When we have our own crews doing this work, there's accountability, because if Mr. Francis's crew doesn't do a good job on it in part of the city, we can send them back out. They can correct their work. With a contractor, it's not that easy, because with a contractor, if we step in and say that you haven't done a good job on, let's say, Rinaldi Street, they can say, yes, we have. We say, no, you didn't. They say, yes, we have. The only way to get that resolved is through court, which they know we're not going to do. You're not going to bring a lawsuit typically over performance of a contract involving just getting a row of trees repaired, or to the point Commissioner Davis just made, which is more money. The contractor will say, well, okay, we'll do it. We'll get it fixed for you for more money. So all of this enables us, if we have our own crews, we have the accountability problem met. We don't have to worry about the contract being exorbitant. Now, we lose what is the low bid competition, is what our critics in this would say. But if you look over the past few years, this low bid competition over the past few years has not benefited the city. I might add, to my recollection, I think it was Emily Alpert Reyes, in year 2 of this program of this board, there was a story that was done with looking at the metrics of the tree trimming contracts once the city got our own crews reinstated, and the metrics indicated that yes, after the city got our own crews reinstated, the contracting rates came down. I would note that regarding this contract, the low bid is 13% below our estimate. That we weren't getting that 3 or 4 years ago. So having our own crews has in many ways solved the problems we were having with the bid amounts, but it doesn't necessarily completely solve the problems that we might have with performance and accountability. The question that I would like you to address along with the rest of your presentation, Mr. Francis put a couple of points on the table that could affect this contract. One, he indicated that we have the crews. That was my first question. Do we have the people available to do this kind of work? My assumption was that we didn't, because you brought this contract forward. But then he indicates that we do. However, we don't have the equipment necessary. So that begs the next question. of an area where we need to provide our crews with the equipment that exists. So all that's on the table. Welcome to the board this morning, and the floor is yours, and then we'll go and take questions. Go ahead.
President James, Commissioners, Bureau Representative, City Attorney, and Executive Officer, yes, I actually said that Jimmy could come today. So let me talk a little bit about what Jimmy was talking about. We were given 55 new positions to do the general funded tree trimming.
Yay.
Yay.
Go ahead.
And the
It's a good
mayor-
start.
Yes, it is. I was given $700,000 in contractual services to rent equipment. I have been waiting for some equipment for 3 years. We have 11 high rangers that are coming in right now that we've been waiting on, which we really need. As far as having enough people and enough equipment at this time to do these 2 contracts, one more will be coming for, there's 2 SLAF contracts. We're not ready to do them yet. Okay?
But you're not ready to do what?
We're not ready to do these contracts here with what we have available. Right now, the general fund, we need to do somewhere near 27 to 30,000 trees this year, this fiscal year. It's almost over. We're going as fast as we can. We're somewhere near 16,500 trees right now. When the new people come on board, they have to get Class B licenses. Some of them are just now getting the license in order to drive the vehicles that they need to trim the trees. All these things combined, sometime next fiscal year, when everything smooths out, we have all the equipment, we have all the people in place, then we could consider taking on these type of contracts, which are the only one other contract that we do, which is the Street Light and its Maintenance Fund. The other is all general funded. Now, I want to remind the board that we weren't given a whole year's funding for this. And we started trimming the trees.
Were we given
July.
9 months? Were we given
Yeah,
9 months funding?
9 months.
Okay.
And I started.
Which is not unusual, by the
No,
way,
right.
with our budget process.
So Urban Forestry Division made the decision to go ahead and move our 4 crews that we had at that time in to start trimming these trees, or we wouldn't have 16,000 right now trimmed. We jumped the gun. We got involved right away and started trimming trees because we knew we were waiting for equipment. We knew it would take time to hire the people. The hiring process takes sometimes a while. And we've been very successful. Just recently, we picked up a lot of those 55 positions. They're brand new employees. They have to go through safety training. They have to get their Class B licenses. We are forming 5 more crews. That'll all be happening like within the next 2 weeks. But all of these crews are going to be concentrating on trying to get that 16,000 to 25,000 before the end of June. So in order to start these contracts, we do not have the people available. We do not have the equipment. That's why we're here today to move this forward, because we still would like to get these trees trimmed. We will monitor the contractor who's doing the work very closely, as we did with the last contracts we had, where we were given the 5 contract inspectors to have 1 on each contract that was going on the ones that just finished.
Okay, so, and then, Tim, I'm going to let my colleagues, we'll go through some questions before you start your normal presentation, but I've got some inconsistency in opinion from Mr. Francis says that there are enough crew members to do the work. You say there's not. But you both are saying there's not enough equipment.
Right.
So, let me finish.
Sorry.
So because of that, let's hear the issues related to this contract. I would ask, though, we have the luxury today of having our general manager here, Mr. Haj Khalil. I would ask you, Adele, as I know you will, you have great labor relationships, to work with 721 on these issues so that we can do our best to keep them busier than they can possibly be in this area while we continue to ramp up. Commissioner Davis, you had a question.
The strategic plan that we have, well, first let me say that it appears in terms of the discussion that we've recently had that we all agree that the cost-benefit analysis is certainly worthy of us continuing to implement more workers doing this job than not. So having established that fact, my question is, what is our strategic plan in transforming to that area? We know that one of the challenges is equipment, so when will we implement a plan that will get us the appropriate amount of equipment, number one? And then number two, how do we deal with the teams that we currently have in terms of phasing them into completing some of the work that we have on the table?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. The plan is in effect. We do have the people now. We are waiting for the equipment. The combination of the two is what makes it happen. Within the next 2 weeks, I'll be starting up the 5 crews, and then we will have 9 crews. As the people came on board, they had to be attached to other crews to make those crews larger until more and more people come on board. You need equipment operators, you need heavy-duty truck operators. You could hire the tree surgeons, but not have those other positions filled, which just recently were filled last week, heavy-duty truck operators. So, but they don't have to wait to get their license. They already have a license. So as soon as they go through a couple of weeks up and we check on make sure they can handle these big rigs and driving in the city safely, then these crews will be started within a week or so. And as soon as they're all started, which the guys are already working on doing the general funded tree trimming, but the equipment is also, I have another 4 trucks that were rented that are coming in. Then we'll be able to set up these crews with 3 high rangers, and then we have 11 new rangers that are coming in, and then some of the rental equipment will go back.
So what is our goal in terms of the equipment? When do we anticipate? What's our goal?
It's right now. The trucks are at the GSD. We're waiting for them to turn them over to us. They got 6 of the 11.
So by next month, let's say in May, we expect that we'll have the appropriate equipment for the team that we have to begin implementing workers from the city to begin this process of transforming them into doing the work. I know we have existing contracts that we cannot violate, but what I'm concerned about is the appropriate amount of equipment, time certain that we will have it, so that as we transform into beginning to do this work, that our men and women are appropriately equipped to do the work.
That's exactly.
And when will that be?
That's right now. It's happening right now.
So
In other words, I've rented the equipment that I needed to rent, and there's only X amount of dollars for rental. So the people were not ready to drive that equipment yet, so there was no need to have the equipment and spend money needlessly on renting it until someone can actually drive it.
So then my final question then is, how many contracts do we have on the table that we can transition out of?
Well, what we have is the general fund, 30,000 trees that need to be. We don't have any contracts now that are going at all with private contractors.
Then we can begin the implementation of your discussion of our men with the appropriate equipment. Let's say by May, we can begin to roll them out to do this work.
Absolutely.
So that the request that Mr. Francis is making, we have a plan in place to begin the implementation to create that reality.
That is correct.
Let me put it in context. I think, good morning, Adel Haj Khalil. With Streets LA, and get street service out of the way. We're meeting with the union next week to talk about many things as part of our joint labor efforts, and we've been talking about having open door discussions. My vision on contracting is it serves a purpose, and it serves a purpose to ensure that services are being delivered, because we didn't have the resources to support that. So it's, in a way, if it's a permanent need, we can look into bringing it in-house. If it's just a meet of peak, then we can deal with it. So there's a lot of needs. But as we've talked about, is what you have. I think what the President James brought up is critical. A couple of years ago, none of the work is being done by city forces. Today, all city work, except for this work that you have before you, and that's 1/10. I want to put it in context. Our goal is to do 30,000, and this is 2,500 trees. 30,000 trees, 2,500 trees. This is associated with street lighting. So this contracting is only one, basically a small percentage of it, 10% of it. So what we're looking for is what we need. If you look at the strategic plan, the goal of the city for us to really have a good trimming cycle that we're going to get to is about 60 to 70,000 trees a year. So the work is going to expand over time. And we're working very hard with the Commissioner Cabello, Commissioner James, and many of the partners on how we can get the future funding for this critical asset for us. But I think critically what we have done here is brought in this work that we were doing with contract in-house. And the work that we have before us, the forces, I think we have a lot more work to do on the city trees or trees maintained by the city than what we can afford. And the equipment, we've done the rentals and getting the staff ready. The hiring was an issue that we've worked hard on getting the people in. And we brought a lot of tree surgeons and tree surgeon assistants. But also we rented equipment, and I met with GSD to expedite the procurement process, and those are on the way. That was a priority. Unfortunately, one of them actually burned on the way here. We just got the news last week, which is something we'll deal with. But the equipment is coming, the workforce is done. We have a lot more work than is needed. So I asked our union brothers and sisters is to look at the big picture. What we have done is we brought the work in-house. This is only a work that we cannot do right now because there's more that needs to be done with the forces. Tim talked about 25,000 that we have to do by the end of the year. I'd like to see 30,000 by the end of the year. We've been doing overtime. You saw them on the weekend. We're working 7 days a week. I'm concerned with the safety of the staff working 7 days a week. There's a lot more that needs to be done. Equipment has to be brought in. Training has to be done. Hiring new people has to be done. We're doing that already. But there's a lot more work to be done. So I'm saying is let's move this forward, this contract for now, and understand this is just a crutch for now while we increase our resources. And I'm hoping over time as we bring and build this workforce to what needs to be done to meet the demands that we have, we will take that work. And I agree with you that.
Do you have a goal in terms of your vision that you hope that you will be up to the level of performance that you vision?
The goal of what we need to do is to bring this trimming cycle to 7 years, 5 to 7 years. We're not at that level right now. So that was about 60 to 70,000 trees have to be trimmed a year. We are at about 25,000 to 30,000, which is amazing as we were before. But more needs to be done. It's a process. So the work is going to increase. I'm committed to the workforce in urban forestry. More than ever, we've been working really hard on hiring and more to be hired. But it's a process. This is only a crutch to help us get what needs to be done, because I hate for us to not serve this, because it serves a purpose for street lighting. If these trees are not properly trimmed, it does not serve our clients in street lighting. So I want to make sure that this is taken care of while we're taking care of the big need.
Thank you. Commissioner Cabello.
Thank you, President James. I want to thank Mr. Francis for your insight. I think that was really valuable for me to understand the dynamic between the city workers and the contractors. And I also do want to express to Street Trees and to Mr. Tyson and Mr. Haj Khalil how appreciative I am of the situation you're in, and understanding that it is difficult to get all the resources you need at once to get it up and running. My only question is, you had, Mr. Tyson, referenced a couple of other contracts coming our way to help meet the goals. But you also said to Commissioner Davis that you anticipate, and I don't know if I heard you correctly, maybe I didn't, that May would be the time when the equipment and the staff training and safety training and licenses and what have you will be kind of coming together to just take that over. So if that's the case, will there be a need for more outside contracting, and how many will be coming our way?
Let me speak on that a moment. In my vision for once I have these 5 crews instituted and they're all working at a professional level, we have all the equipment and everything, we're going to outdo what was expected of us, just like we're doing right now with minimal. Instead of 30,000 trees, we should be able to get 40,000 trees a year with this many crews. We're doing 2,000 dead tree removals and stumps. We're going to be watering trees. We're going to be planting trees, 800 a year. And definitely opening up many planting sites for that by the removal of the dead trees, which is sustainable. You need to do that to have sustainability so that you get new trees planted. I see next year these two contracts possibly being done in-house. Because we usually get about the same amount of money yearly from street lighting. And it's always the same amount of trees. It's not that many, but it still adds to our total.
So is it been the practice, and forgive my ignorance, I'm still sort of newish, but not the newest one yet. Is it the practice of Bureau of Street Services, UFD, to contract out the street lighting funded projects?
We have always contracted these out. These are the only ones we've never done in-house. And now we're doing all of the general funded contracts. There are no more.
Yeah.
We are the general funded contractor. And I see that, you got 2,500 trees here. If you're doing $1 million worth of street lighting funds, you get 5,000 trees total. 2 contracts. But they're very important. They provide illumination in important places where people feel unsafe and those kind of things.
Understood.
But
here's my question, though.
okay.
How many more contracts will be coming our way? Given all of this.
There's just one more.
One more after this.
Yeah, and
how soon do you anticipate that coming to the board?
it's in final review next week.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I would only ask just a clarifying point, and either Mr. Tyson or Mr. Hajkhalil. So, while the crews are currently busy finishing the max trees, the number of trees you need to get done this fiscal, you're going to have crews that are then going to be freed up and available to do work like this, correct?
Well, that's what I was saying, that we're going to, as soon as the fiscal year's over, we're going to start doing the next fiscal year's 30,000 trees as well.
Understood.
But these contracts, these 2 contracts for next year, we could consider maybe doing them in-house.
In-house?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that answers Jimmy's question. We're just not there yet. We're real close. We have the people, like Jimmy stated, and the equipment's coming, but everything has to be in place in order to promise something.
But in next fiscal, we may have the opportunity that these contracts are not let out.
I agree, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. With that, I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 1, seconded by Commissioners Garcia and Cabello. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 1. Any issue sending it forthwith? We'll send it forthwith. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. I see Molly Rhodes. Thank you, Hilda. And Mr. Hajkhalil, thank you for being here today. Great to see everybody today. We are, I think we've cleared the desk, Dr. Campos?
Yes, you have.
Okay, we are adjourned with the exception of the Bureau Heads meeting, which will take place now in the conference room behind the chambers. Thank you, everybody.